Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's the Stoke 1, Leeds United 0 match review 24 hours after the game. What a nightmare result for Leeds. Nightmare performance. There's so much to dig through, and me and Jason, we're going to go through it all. I'm Stephen Brown. With me is the aforementioned Jason Bucket as well. Good evening, Jason.
How are you, mate?
Well, I was kind of glad we didn't get to do an immediate post-match reaction last night because I was absolutely fuming last night. I thought if I was on a live stream, I'd be saying things I'd regret the day after. However, I find myself still equally frustrated today. This morning, I woke up and I was spitting feathers still. I was reading tweets from people at 6:30 in the morning going, what was that performance? What have we done? And retweeting videos of Bamford skying his penalty. And, I can't believe that a bog standard game against Stoke in the Championship on a Wednesday night can have so many talking points and so much to discuss, but it absolutely does. It absolutely does. First of all, Jason, we will pick through everything, obviously, starting with the team sheet and everything like that, but you're overriding emotions 24 hours later, mate.
Yeah, I feel really disappointed. The facts are, you're not going to win every game. Leicester and Ipswich aside, who just seem to be doing that at the moment, most teams are not going to win every single game. We came into it winning 3 in a row, and we didn't play well. Especially first half, we were particularly poor. Smacked of the first half against Southampton, smacked of the first half against Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham away. We've seen these moments in games where we've not particularly started well, but also just not played well. And the facts are, we don't watch Ipswich and Leicester every week, but I can tell you that I've watched Leicester a little bit this season, and Leicester are not playing well every week either, but what they are doing is winning. And for me, yesterday, we played for that moment. The way that the game went, we played for that moment. And when that moment came, we had to take it. And for me, I know we're gonna go over it all in detail. We're gonna pick it all apart and show Mr. Bamford is certainly culpable for some of it, and obviously missing the penalty itself. But for me, it's bigger than that. And my initial frustration that I felt, I knew he'd missed from before he took it. We all knew he'd missed before he took it. As much as I'm willing him to take it, and I've said to you, I think he makes a difference when he comes on and he can play a part, etc., etc., etc. But the facts are, strong leadership is needed to make sure that things like last night don't happen, just like they happened against Newcastle. When we were in that moment against Newcastle, we win that game, we could still be in the Premier League right now. That's not for certain, but we could. And them moments are huge. And there was absolutely in no world should Patrick Bamford have been taking that penalty. He's not a great finisher anyway. He's got terrible composure. In the big moments, he's poor. From the spot, he's poor. He's now missed half of the penalties that he's taken for Leeds United. But I don't blame him for that. I blame the management team for allowing him to step up. And I know people are going to come at me for, Somerville tried to take the ball, blah, 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 and he has to strike and all. That, for me, is not... You don't get to that moment on the pitch and not know who is taking that spot kick. And sure, Pirot would have been the pen taker had he have not been substituted for Bamford. But that's not a good enough excuse for it to not be on the management. For me, even when I played at junior level, if the designated spot taker was off the pitch, I knew, me and the teammates knew who the manager wanted to take it next. It's a bog standard basic. And especially when you know that you've got a situation with a striker like Bamford, who is terribly out of confidence, not scored in a long time, and has got terrible pen record, you make sure as a manager that you say, I'm really sorry, Pat, but if we get a penalty tomorrow night, regardless of who's on the pitch, you're not taking it. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to give this, we're going to give it to X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that I know I've skipped over a few pages at once there, but ultimately the game came down to that moment because we score, we win. We win a bog standard, really crappy championship game 1-0 because they were really poor too, especially second half. They were crap. They were really, really poor. And we probably deserved to win the game second half. So we go on and win it. But just like against Newcastle, remember what happened against Newcastle? We missed the penalty. They went straight down the other end and got a penalty of their own because it swings the momentum of the game. And that's what happened. Then big moments, they swing momentum. And that's what happened. Stoke only then geared up to get the goal that they got. And even that were a little bit lucky because they'd had the bounce back almost of having the missed penalty.
Yeah, you could hear it in the crowd, couldn't you? And it wasn't a great atmosphere. And then that just kind of gave the atmosphere a buzz, really, as you would expect. Thank you for your comments. If you're watching along, please do like the video. Do subscribe to the channel as well. We do really appreciate it. Kevin, evening, Browney and Jayson. Kevin, pleasure to have you along, mate. Hope you're not suffering too much after last night's match. Craig, Huddersfield fan watching along. Craig, we appreciate that. Just to let you know as well, I'll be on with Stephen Downs, our Huddersfield Town correspondent as well. Tomorrow we'll be previewing Saturday's game, Leeds versus Huddersfield there as well. Following on from and echoing your points, Jason, Mark, it should be arranged who takes penalties before the game starts.
Basic.
And Kevin, Bamford is a bully with young players. Stroik needs to grow a backbone and tell Bamford to do one. Listen, we're gonna delve a little bit more into it as well because I think there's several psychological things happening at once when that man tries to grab the ball and take a penalty. Because and I've heard other content creators, Connor, I think Joe, these guys have mentioned it. About side before self. I would love the man to have had a bit of self-awareness. Just an ounce of self-awareness. I know it goes against the striker's instinct where they want to score goals. He's in a terrible run of form. He's not been in form for 3 years. He needs a goal. But I would just love a player to have self-awareness and go, you know what, actually, no. Like Rodrigo should have taken the penalty against Newcastle for God's sake.
If you're 3-0 up, fine. Go and find your confidence and go stick it in. Fine. Yeah. No problem with that. But I just want to make the point. People have been flying around and comparing it with what happened at Chelsea the other day. Enzo, I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
No. What was basically the 2-2 against Arsenal? Chelsea
got a penalty, and Sterling went to take the ball off of Cole Palmer, and Enzo Fernandez went, no, he's taking it. Now, the difference there is, I can only assume this based on what we've got in front of us. We don't know this for a fact. But Enzo Fernandez would not have been disagreeing with Sterling unless that had been discussed before the game. So my feelings is that it was decided before the game, if we get a penalty, Cole Palmer's our taker. Sterling tried to pull rank and take it in that moment, and Enzo Fernandez then said, no, he's the penalty taker. And that's why it's different. It's not the same. Because if that had been the case yesterday, I believe Dani Fara would have come out and said so, but he didn't. He said that it was down to the players. Bamford won the penalty. He stepped up and took it. That for me is just not on. And I really rate Dani Fara. I've been really positive about him. And overall, I think he's done a really good job so far this season. But he has made mistakes. And again, I think he showed a real naivety in that moment. Because for me, you should know, it shouldn't have even been in question. The last person that should have been going towards that ball was Patrick Bamford. Yeah. And I don't blame him for going and getting it. I really don't.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, because these things should be ironed out before you even step foot on the pitch. It's just frustrating though, because I think it's sometimes Bamford's demeanour lets him down a bit. It's kind of a shrug of the shoulders after, and it just feels very about him. It was about getting him back on track. And it's like, no, we're trying to get points here. We're trying to win football games. I don't give a damn about if you've not scored a goal in 18 months or whatever it is. I just want us to win football games. I would have loved to him to have just said, you know what, actually, I'm one of the elder statesmen. This club means a lot to me. I'm going to let Somerville, I'm going to let Rutter, whoever, take this penalty. I would have loved to have seen that. But I get what you're saying. It's not his responsibility. Farke should have been absolutely all over that and setting out, that this is what is going to happen. And for me, Farke's made a ton of mistakes last night, and we'll pick through it. He's very inconsistent at the moment, is Farke, with what's going on. He is making some mistakes for me. He really is.
No, he is. Just on that specifically, right? I 100% agree with you. And I think if you have a type of person and player in front of you that has displayed them leadership characteristics, then sure, you would be surprised that he then didn't do that. But Bamford's never shown them characteristics. So why, as the manager, the person that is employed to manage the team, because one of the biggest aspects in football management is man management, why is he not making sure that situation doesn't happen? And if Bamford's, ways and demeanours and all for me stuff is that prevalent and that bad for the team, which I might agree with you that it's causing us some problems. Why is Daniel Farke not removing it? That's where I look at it. Like, he cost us 3 points yesterday, right? So again, Bamford is who he is. If that is the case, why is Daniel Farke putting him in that position? Why is he allowing it? Like, for him to come on and affect the game, fine. But again, I'm just going to keep on saying it. Make sure that the instruction is clear. In them moments, you are not the man, Patrick. Do you understand? Because if you don't understand, you're not in the team. You're not in the squad. That's it. Period. Yeah. Done. That's management.
Just get it nailed down.
It blows my mind, mate. And it really, really, because last night was so avoidable. So avoidable. And we are going to turn up to games sometimes and not play very well. That's going to happen. But then you get them wins, and we should have got one of them last night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I can't disagree. Boxerman, Stoke fan here. I still don't get why you let Bamford take it. I still think you'll be in the top 3 easily, maybe top 2. You have a good team. Good luck for the rest of the season. Yeah, really appreciate that, mate. Really appreciate you tuning in as well. Thank you for that. Enjoy the 3 points that we've generously donated to you there. Okay, the Pat Bamford thing, we've kind of chatted a little bit about it.
We could talk about it all night, couldn't we?
We'll be coming back round to it probably again and again through the string, because it is obviously the critical moment of the game. But let's rewind. Let's go back to the team sheet before kick-off. Some changes made, some less successful than others. I mean, let's have a look. So we had Jayan Anthony come in, we had Willie Gnonto come in, we had Gruev come in, so Kamara, Somerville, Dan James dropped. It's since come out, Farke said Somerville's on painkillers and can't do 3 games in a week. I mean, not getting into the performance quite yet, but when you saw Gruev, for example, who's played about 2 minutes of football all season and he's suddenly starting, what did you make of that team sheet when you first saw it?
Tricky one, because we've wanted a squad desperately for a long period of time, so we have the capabilities to rotate. Daniel Farke obviously sees him in training. He said that Gruev has been performing well. Archie's playing at right back, which we could get into and talk about that separately. But let's just say, Archie's made the right back his own. Well, Spence is injured. That then leaves a position where he's saying that Kamara's fatigued after the weekend. You turn to your bench and we've signed a Bulgarian international to play centre midfield. So he should be able to step in for his starting debut away at the team that are 20th in the league. So I haven't got a problem with that change happening. Somerville is protecting a knock. Fine. I can get that. I don't understand dropping Dan James at all. No. For me, it was pivotal in his getting back into the game at the weekend. And this bashing of him needs to stop. I said it at the weekend. He arguably is our most potent winger. Barring the 2 goals from Somerville, I would say James has actually been the best winger so far this season. Forget the individual moments. Look at the core facts. Look at where he delivers the balls to on a regular basis. Some of them are going to go out. Discussed it before, but for me, James, it gives us more defensively as well. So I was a bit miffed by that change, but again, it's a championship, 3 games in 7 days or whatever, big game against Town on Saturday. So I you should be able to use the squad. So that's my kind of feeling on it, especially when Farke then explains the reasons for Somerville, I guess, and Kamara. So yeah, you got squad to use it, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, we play games backwards sometimes, starting with subs and subbing your best players on when the game is nearly over. Start with your best team, win the game, and sub on players to guard the points. Interesting one here from Diggler. Welcome along, mate. Just got here last week. I heard from a content creator that there was a rumour that Jayan Anthony was unhappy about not getting played enough. I wonder if that's why James was dropped. Well, let's just get into this, because against Norwich at the weekend, and we've seen this several times from Leeds this season, slow starts. And again, it happened last night. I was literally shouting about 2 or 3 minutes into the game, Jason, because you could see this pattern again.
Yeah.
The team are on the front foot against us, and we're so passive. But it was even worse last night. It was nobody could control a football. Nobody could pass 5 yards. Where was the intensity? We didn't win second balls. We were second to everything. That half never got going. We had a little moment about 20 minutes in, created a couple of chances, but then it kind of petered out again. And I think Jayan Anthony, I mean, he's looked so good coming on in his cameos in games this several times this season. He's impressed me. And I was excited for him starting. I'll be honest. I mean, my take on the changes were, I agree. Dan James, I was like, what? Somerville, I was like, surprised you're dropping in, but it makes sense kind of with what's going on. But I was excited to see Jayan Anthony, and boy, oh boy, he stunk the place out. I mean, he was absolutely terrible.
I'd go as far.
He could not control a football, or he couldn't. He was terrible.
I'd go as far as saying it's the worst individual performance this season, Jayan Anthony's first half. I would go that far. He was so bad. Like his control, his decision making, his desire, his touch, just everything was miles off. I messaged you. I'd have hooked him after 25 minutes. I genuinely would have done. Yeah. And I mean, if he's unhappy, I'd expect him to be unhappy and not starting games. He's coming from the Premier League. He's dropped down. I get that, but the fact is, it should always be a meritocracy, and the facts are the players around him have earned their positions. And last night, for me, he won't be back in again now until a major drop in one of the others, because he was miles off it. Miles off it, mate. And I don't think Nonto was great either. But Nonto was better than Anthony. I honestly, it was, if you could score it less than 0, that's how bad he was first half. You go back and watch that first half again and watch how many times he put us under pressure by bad touches and losing the ball and making the wrong decision. But again, you won't hear it, because for some reason certain players just have this kind of carry this agenda against them. If Dan James had played like that last night, Jesus, he'd have been absolutely crucified for it.
Yeah, he would. It's so frustrating though, because we have such a potent attack, and it works. The fact that we've got all these such talented wingers, talented players, and it's like, grab your opportunity. If you're bitching and moaning and you're not happy that you're not getting time, there's your start against 20th in the league. And you put a performance like that. He did one good thing the entire game, a little dribble in the second half. It wasn't that much better second half. He
did one dribble. The shot went miles wide. I know I'm probably just skipping ahead here a little bit, but Kevin's put Stoke done a proper number on us. I don't think they did. I think they played okay early, pressed us, and we've seen that we either struggle against somebody with a high intense press or somebody that sits with a low block. Anything in between we tend to look quite good at, but we do struggle. But it's almost instructional, some of it. Like I've said to you before, it seems like we try and take teams late and drown them. And that's how it feels like we need to build into games. But I don't think Stoke were particularly great. They got at the fullbacks and they whipped a couple of crosses in. They get the ball into the box as quickly as possible. They had 2 chances first half, which were half chances, both straight at Melier, really. And then the goal ends up coming off the crossbar and hitting striker in the face and going in. Like, they scored an own goal. Like, they weren't particularly great. I do think they're in a false position. I think they'll end up finishing around mid-table, but they were there for the taking last night. Second half, we were playing at a 5 out of 10 level, and we were still comfortably better than them once we kind of got all the second half.
This is why I'm so annoyed with it. Why, when a team is there for the beating like Stoke were, we're clearly, man for man, we are much, much better than Stoke. No offence to Stoke, by the way. We just come out of the Premier League. We've had boatloads of cash. We've got a £35 million player on the pitch. We're supposed to be better than Stoke. why are we turning up and performing like that? Why are you starting games like that in that manner? It just boggles. I mean, and I totally get what you've said in the past about they're the home team. The emphasis is on them to get on the front foot, press Leeds and put the pressure on. But we were so passive. We were so passive. Honestly, I just don't understand. These are the games we've got to win.
So, some of it for me, it looks like it's individual performances though. And I mean, Archie struggled again yesterday. I thought Ampadu struggled again yesterday. And it seemed like they always needed 3, 4, 5 touches instead of 1 or 2. And I've said that a couple of times this season. It's extremely frustrating, mate. Extremely frustrating. And I do think that, some of it is getting it wrong, and some of it is, still building into this, and some of it's the championship. Again, I think we're so spoiled at championship level to think that we're just going to turn up and roll teams over every week, because that's what we did under Bielsa. But it was just a freak special one-off scenario and situation. I think this league is like this, and the facts are, while we do have some quality, we also are a championship side, and we're going to have these moments. But like we've said, we needed to make sure that we still came out of them yesterday with 3 points.
Yeah, the pressure's ramped up because of how good Leicester and Ipswich are doing at the minute. I mean, Ipswich win again last night.
Record starts for both of them,
It's record starts. I mean, teams with their points acquired already have gone up, up. And and it's so frustrating because, we thought we might have a chance of catching Ipswich. Ipswich postponed game. We'd won 3 points catching them up. I just cannot understand turning up and putting a performance like that in, Jason. I can't understand it. And I think I've got to look at Farke and what is the intention when you're starting these games? What is the intention? Because it isn't working. We've been lucky, but there's been previous games, Jason, where we've been damn lucky not to be losing in the first 15 minutes. And it's going to come back and bite us in the arse. And it's all right having all these talented players and they'll bail us out, because they're so skillful, they're so clever. Are we relying on individual brilliance? What is the tactical plan here? What are we doing?
It does feel a little bit. I've seen a few other people say this, it does feel a little bit like we're caught in between styles. It never looks like we have a full style on show in the game.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
we retain the possession around the back. We try and bait people into open the spaces. I get that part of it. And then we spring it into midfield, and usually it's Rutter who turns and gets us on the attack. But you cut that out. And you've got nothing. And then what tends to happen is later on into the game when teams are getting tired, the front four, and somebody mentioned earlier about then changing it later into the game, it's why it is effective, is because you bring on so much fresh talent in them positions, make things happen and score goals. So, but it has worked. I mean, we are third and we are on 20 odd points or whatever. Like, it has worked. We've seen it work several times. But the problem is that you're leaving 60, 70 minutes of the game where you are putting the game state in real danger. It's like, it's not particularly smart to try and take a game to the 60, 70th minute, hope you've not conceded, and then try and take over. So I do agree with you. I know what it is, I think, that he's trying to do, but I don't agree with it. Yeah. You think back to the Ipswich game earlier on this season, right? Because I think we'd have seen a similar pattern unfold in that game. But what happened in that game is they scored early and it made us react. And because they were quite an open team, we were able to hit them 3 times on the break. You know what I mean?
Moment of brilliance, wasn't it? Rutter's goal was a moment of brilliance, and we've seen it. I mean, I knew, I probably didn't vocalize it that much at that game, but Ipswich looked like a more coherent team.
They look like they have a better structure.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head about it's a mishmash at the moment. And for me, I know he doesn't want to talk about it, and he did a half an hour answer to the question in the press conference about Joe Perreault. I know my strikers. And it's like, well, what's going on last night? Because Perreault, he's your man in midfield. He's supposed to be linking that base of the midfield to the attack. And guy's nowhere near the ball. He looks lost. I don't know what that is. It does look like a mishmash. It just looks like you're trying to fit these players in. And what are we actually doing? What is the plan here? Because this thing of passing it about at the back, and then, like you say, we knock a ball into Rutter and he's always heavily marked, and it's relying on Rutter to do, what else are we doing? What else are we doing for the first 60, 70 minutes in games?
There were a moment first half yesterday where Nonto whipped one across 6-yard box.
Yeah.
And I messaged to you, I said, where's
Yeah.
Pirro? And he was like
Yeah.
10 yards outside the box.
Outside the box.
That is instructional. It has to be, because there's no way that Joe Pirro, being a predatory striker, would be in that position otherwise. It almost feels to me like he's made his point with it. He's so stubborn with it now that he kind of has to sit on it, and he has to do it. Like, and I've seen I think it might have been Joe made this point. No, it's Joe. Joe makes this point for those who watch through all the content creators. Why, when Bamford comes on, is Rutter okay to go to the 10? So the answer to that is that Pat presses better than Pirro. Fine, he's quicker than Pirro. I do get that. But surely then you coach and train Pirro into doing that role for you, because when we then have the ball, he's the person that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Because I fully believe if Pirro was instructed to play at 9, we'd have scored that when Nonto whipped it across. But Rutter doesn't have the instinct to get into them positions, because that's not what he does.
But Farke's come out and says Pirro can't press, and then you're almost looking at it going, well, why did you buy him? Why did you buy a striker with an amazing goal record to not play him in the striker's position because he can't press? By the way, where was the press last night?
Do we press? That's what I was going to say. Do we press?
What is the press? There was no press last night. Rutter occasionally
did it
ran down. But honestly, whenever we had the ball, we were getting pressed. They were allowed acres and acres and acres of space. Why? Where's our press? Are we a high-intensity team? What are we? What actually are we? And to be honest, last night's game, and I think this is why there's such a reaction to it, is because there's probably been hints and glimpses of these problems and these issues, like we saw on Saturday against Norwich, where in the back of your mind you're going, okay, we got the result, but there's a few worrying trends here. I mean, how many games have we said this about Pirro now? He doesn't want to answer the question in the press conference anymore, by the way, which I think is ridiculous, because if it isn't working, what, we're going to never say anything again for the entire season?
Because he said so. I mean, I don't want to. I want to say this quietly, right? But when I was watching the game last night, there was a couple of moments where I thought, this reminds me of Jesse Marsh. It reminds me of the football. There was a moment where Archie Gray took control of the ball. He looks up and he had nobody to give it to, so he knocked it long. And you think about it, like, we want to play in transition out of possession. We want to win the ball back high. No, it's true though. It's true though. You think about it, we want to win the ball back high, or we want to win it so we can counter attack. That's how it feels. You think about, especially away from home, there's not many moments where we try and build through the middle of the pitch. It happens on occasion, but only because of the individual quality that we've got against the individual quality that we're playing against. So tactically, it does frustrate me sometimes. Sometimes we look great, sometimes. But the most frustrating thing, and I can't think of, I'm trying to think of an exception. Millwall away, maybe. There's not been a 90-minute performance. We're inconsistent within the game. We're inconsistent. Yeah. Not are we only inconsistent across games, we're inconsistent within the 90 minutes, which is probably the most concerning thing. I mean, Millwall, you could argue that we were on the back foot for the first 15 minutes, but I do purely think we did a good job of that. They were going to come at us. They played a few long balls into the box. We defended well, and then we dominated the game. That aside, I can't think of many games where we've controlled the game for 90 minutes. QPR at home, we didn't do it.
No.
Sheffield Wednesday at home, we didn't do it. And they're two of the worst sides you're going to see all season. Who else have we had? Ipswich away, we certainly didn't control the game for 90 minutes. Southampton away, I can go through them all. Cardiff at home, first game of the season. It goes on and on and on. We are winning. Norwich at the weekend, we certainly didn't control all of that. Or we didn't even look like we had a certain structure and style for 90 minutes. No. It changes throughout the game. So, yeah, I agree with you completely on a lot of what we're saying, mate, for sure.
It's frustrating. It's so bizarre because we're in October now. We're getting to November, and it just feels like, not that it's definitely not falling to pieces or anything like that. We're not suggesting that, but I think, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, actually, I thought Leeds fans were too quick to deify Farke and to be holding up Farke as Bielsa 2 and all this. I thought it was way too soon. I think how Farke's handled the summer, the transition, has been exemplary. I think he's done a fantastic job on a lot of fronts, but I think there's problems on the pitch. I think when you've got a squad as good as that, I mean, last night's performances should not be happening. Not be happening. And that falls on the manager big time. Big time. Guys, if you're watching along, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel and get your comments in as well.
I'm just chuckling to myself. Somebody's commented on the link to the show on Twitter saying, "Sorry, you lost me at Jesse Marsh." I'm not saying
I had to. No, I know. I get
completely what you're saying. I'm just saying, watch some of the transitional
mention
moments.
Of his name.
Yeah, watch some of them. Dani Fara's football is far beyond that. Some of the moments, it reminds me of it. How we want to be out of possession, especially away from home.
Yeah.
But I'm not comparing him to Jesse Marsh, just for clarity.
Southampton, another game where we were absolutely pathetic, wasn't it? Yeah. As well. Let's have a look at some of the other players then from last night. We touched on Gnonto. It's not going to be a good night when even Gnonto, because Gnonto for me is kind of super reliable in terms of controlling the ball and making things happen, and he's very consistent. But like we've mentioned, he just didn't seem at the races last night.
Two things with Gnonto. I don't like him on the right.
No,
he needs to play on the left because when he cuts inside, he's far more effective when he comes from the left onto his right foot. Yeah. And I also don't like him when he's a left mid. So when he's a little bit deeper and he's carrying. I like him when he's more of an inside forward on that side. He's far more predatory when what he's trying to do is them little balls in to Somerville, Rutter or Perot. He's far less effective when he's travelling a long distance with the ball. So for me, I think again he's probably been played out of position yesterday. I don't think it was horrendous, but it wasn't good.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just a quick comment from Disabled Team. Welcome along, mate. If you look at the table, points-wise, we're closer to mid-table than the top two, if that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. It does say a lot, doesn't it? I mean, I don't want to... I'm going to try and be measured with this, but Gruev, I mean, he looked so miles off it last night. He was slow. He took an age sometimes to get the ball out of his feet and pick a pass. He physically got dominated at times. He bounced off players. There were a couple of times when he should have easily won second balls and it just got snatched away from him. You could talk about ring rustiness. You can talk about all these kind of things. But I find it even bizarre that him and Ampadu would pick together as well, because all the talk, I didn't know diddly squat about Gruev, but all the talk seemed to be about how he was Ampadu's kind of backup or replacement, or who Ampadu was going to be switched with. And then all of a sudden they're dropped in together. And, the amount of times you were looking at the back four, passing it around, and you're thinking, where are those guys? I mean, Ampadu, he got a bit braver as the game went on and eventually started the one-touch pass around the corners. But Gruev, I mean, not good, was it?
No, they were both poor though. I don't think it was just Gruev, but I definitely think he was a little bit overawed by the pressure that was put under early. He wanted to kind of operate at a certain pace that they weren't allowing him to. But he did look ponderous. He looked quite slow. Again, his decision making was pretty poor as well. Didn't have a good game. But then what do? Do you play Archie in midfield, considering the fact that we're saying he needs a rest, and play Luke Hale in there against their best player, certainly first half?
It's interesting though, this whole resting players and Farke's kind of almost made a couple of contradictory comments about this. On the one hand, we need to protect Gray. He plays 3 international games and then he plays back-to-back games for Leeds. And I thought Gray was awful first half. I thought he defensively, he was so vulnerable. He didn't know where his man was. He's not the quickest player, and I found it bizarre that you dropped Kamara. I know Kamara played the international game as well, but for me, Kamara's just fitted in so well, and him and Ampadu have a relationship. I mean, why drop Kamara? Why drop Kamara? But at least start the game with Kamara, bring Gruev on, maybe even give Gruev the second half or something. But I just, to drop Gruev in there to break that pattern of play up, because Kamara is slick on the ball.
Especially away from home.
Yeah.
He's so pressure resistant, is Kamara. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. And I mean, hindsight's a great thing, but we should have probably started with Ayling yesterday. We probably should have done. Because they'd have probably been able to kind of...
What about Shaq?
Or Shaq. I mean, Shaq's got a bit of experience in there as well. But the fact that Archie looked so dead on his feet against Norwich, all game he was getting rinsed. And Archie's very intelligent, but he's not quick. And as a fullback, you do need an element of pace. And he was just getting burnt constantly yesterday. So I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you again, mate.
Why? I mean, Farke's seeing this like the rest of us. Why is he letting him play out these games? Is it because he thinks he needs him when he switches to a 3 at the back and Gray drops in there, or what? But I just don't. I find it baffling. I find it absolutely baffling that this kid has, how many games has he played? 17. And all the talk is about not burning him out, and then he's absolutely run ragged. And then Farke says, "Oh, you always play your best players." Also, you don't give a damn about development, and if they get injured, then which is it? Do you care about protecting them and developing them properly, or do you just want to play your best players? Which is it?
I would argue that after Ayling's last start, I can't remember who it was against now, but he had an absolute stinker. I just think Farke's completely lost faith in him. I think that's what it is. I think Farke's complete. Well, it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, Luke Ayling's a career right back, and he's been displaced by a 17-year-old centre midfielder. So it has to be that Ayling is completely out of favour at the moment. And I get it, because we've all kind of said it as well. And it can't be just 2 bad performances from Gray, then, all is forgiven Luke Ayling. But you have to pick and choose, don't you? You have to, it's horses for courses, depending on the current state of the situation. And yeah, I agree with you completely. Gray, clearly has played so much football. He's leggy. He's very, very leggy. You see it. You watch him. Yeah. You see it when he's carrying the ball out. There were a couple of moments yesterday where I'm like, Archie, what are you doing? You wouldn't have done that a few weeks ago, but you're making mistakes because you're tired. There was one moment yesterday where we were right in the corner flag, first half, I think it was. And I'm like, just smash it out, man. Just get rid of it. Clear it. Put it out for a throw-in if you have to. But he kind of half passed it to the edge of the the moment I'm on about, edge of the box, and he put Stoke back on the attack again. And I'm like, geez, again, if Luke Ayling had played like that yesterday, he'd have got absolutely roasted.
Yeah, it would. Absolutely would. Diggler, right back, is a more physically demanding position than the midfield position that Gray was previously playing. Glenn, a lot of blame will be put on Bamford, but as a team, we rarely match their intensity. Cheers for your comment. Yeah, absolutely. This is what we've said.
I think there's an element of that. I think we need to kind of be aware of how we're critiquing this game, right? Because if we'd have ended up winning 1-0 yesterday, which we should have done, right? We'd have all been like, that's a championship sometimes. Some of the games are going to be like this. Yeah. We can't play great every week. We've managed to come out with a 1-0 win. Great. That's what teams that finish in the top 2 do. That is what would have happened. And that is exactly how they should have gone today if we'd have taken the one moment that came upon us, right? And so in many ways, that moment is bigger than everything else that went on. That don't mean that you don't talk about it. You know what I mean? It don't mean that you still don't kind of analyze it and talk about it. But that's how I see it. Like, the championship is like this.
Yeah. Absolutely. No.
I remember under Bielsa, we went to Stoke first season and lost 2-1 in a bit of a stinker, a bit similar to yesterday. It happens.
It feels like we've got this extra pressure on us, and I think this is the problem that's driving it this season, because there is a pressure for us to get promoted this season, because you almost feel like our chances are going to diminish as a club of getting promotion the longer we stay down here. And we've all got this figure, 16 years. We spent 16 years at the Premier League last time. We can't have that happen again. Because next year we ain't going to have Rutter, we ain't going to have Somerville in the Championship, we're not going to have Nonto in the Championship. We're just not.
No.
And I think we've just got a lot on our shoulders. I think it's tricky. It's the expectations. I mean, if you look at the quality of our squad as well, there's just no justification for this performance like that. I'm sorry,
No.
they just
No,
they just didn't. And I get the whole championshipy thing, but I couldn't believe how sloppy and how lacking in intensity it was.
We do have real gaps though as well. I will just say that we still have big gaps in the team, particularly at fullback. And I know we've all waxed lyrical about Byron this season, and rightly so. Like, he's equipped himself really, really well. But again, we got put under pressure yesterday because he's not a left back, because he's not left-footed. There were several moments yesterday where he couldn't play himself out of the position like he would have done on the other side.
Yeah.
And then I would look at Archie and the right back spot. I do think will look very different when Spence is in there.
Back.
And
I cannot wait for him to come back.
Next international break, apparently. It's going to be a while.
Hey?
Yeah, he's out for another few games yet, because he was meant to be back after this most recent one, wasn't he? But it's going to be the next one, apparently.
Nightmare. It makes you wonder if they're already looking towards January and thinking, well, what does this? I mean, for me though, the big problem you got is Pirro. What are you going to do about that problem? I know he's already got some goals already, brilliant, but is this really what you expected from Pirro in terms of the impact he would make on this team? I mean, is this what we thought we were going to get? I mean, how much was it? £15 million or something, or 10 million? You know, I think it's a real issue. I think it is, and I think Farke can't just dismiss it as he knows best. I really don't think he can, because it's becoming a problem, because we're saying this every game. Every fan is saying Pirro quiet. Where is he getting his chances? You know?
I do think that he wasn't first choice, and I know a lot of people said, was he right for a Farke system before we signed him? I do think we wanted Cameron Archer. I think he was the one that we really wanted, and obviously when he went to Sheffield United, we kind of then went and looked at the second option and overpaid really for a player in his last year of his contract, which is the right thing to do if he's the man that you want, because, you know, he can get you the goals to get you promoted. It's worth it, blah, 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 the rest of it. But I do think it's taking some adjusting. And I do think also that Farke has put himself in a position with this situation where he is now going to have to eat so much humble pie to go back on what he said that he'll almost dig in as long as possible until he does that. It might even be a case where it'll take Rutter to go out wide before he'll do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, somebody comes back from... Are we missing anybody now? I don't even know if we are missing anybody.
I don't think we are.
Or maybe we get to January and maybe we get to January and we sign a 10, and then Rutter goes wide and Pirro goes up front and the 10 goes in behind and James gets dropped or Somerville gets dropped or whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what it'll take. Because I do think out and out, Rutter is... winger. I think he's an inside forward who will probably see even more from in that position out wide. But yeah, it's a real frustration, mate. It is. It's a real problem.
Yeah, it feels a jumble. I mean, the bright spot for me last night, again, Jorginho Rutter, his passing, his vision, his creativity, the way he uses his body. He was the bright spark again. You know, a couple of times he came deep, you know, as well, and he's bailing defenders out, you know, and it's that thing again, you know, if we do and we change up his position, you think, well, how smart is that when it's your most effective and best player? But I mean, one of the positives for me last night, Jorginho Rutter again.
Pascal.
Star man of the season for me so far, Rutter. I think.
Yeah, I thought Rutter was really good yesterday as well, especially second half. Really tried to get into the game and make things happen. It was his pass that put Bamford through. His decision-making in and around the box and his weight of pass, we spoke about it before, is fantastic. He's way beyond number 9 in terms of his ability to link play. I mean, the couple of knocks that he did yesterday that then he like juggled the ball over somebody. And I can't remember if he put... Was that when he put Bamford through or... I can't remember. It was beautiful. Played really well. I thought Pascal was sensational yesterday as well. I thought it was really, really good. It'll go under the radar because the rest of the performance was pretty poor. And then, unfortunately, ended up getting bonked in face from the one off the crossbar and ended up scoring an own goal. But I thought it was really good yesterday. His defensive awareness, his positioning, his blocking, putting himself on the line. I just want to say on Pascal as well, I don't have any time for people being like, Pascal should have been ragging the ball off Bamford and saying that you're not taking the penalty. Nah. Pascal is, you know, growing into being a leader, growing into being a captain. he's obviously got respect for the older players in the team.
Yeah.
Again, that decision shouldn't have been left to a young captain to make. Imagine how bad it would have looked if Pascal and Bamford had started back and forward in with ball and they'd have started arguing. It would not have been what we wanted to see from our captain. I promise you. That is not the scene. It should have been taken out of his hands. So, yeah, don't buy into that at all.
No, absolutely not. Disabled Team makes a really interesting point here. All managers are stubborn and don't want to admit they've made a mistake. That's what costs a lot of managers their jobs. One of my biggest bugbears as a football fan is manager stubbornness. You can see the problem. 40,000 fans can see the problem, but the manager is going to live and die by some decision, and it frustrates the hell out of me. I think the journalists are going to have to speak up in the conferences. They can't just, because Farke's kind of gone, I know my strikers. Nah, you're gonna. This has got to be dealt with again. He's got to be questioned about it again.
Every manager that we've ever had, I mean, and this goes for all of football. To be fair, fans always think that they'll know better, but all managers that I can remember have created this kind of situation. I remember Kevin Blackwell playing David Healy on the right, and he was an out-and-out number 9. In League One, we did the same thing. There were times where Beckford got put on the wing. You know what I mean? You just left scratching your head as a fan, thinking, why are you rolling him back out there again? Why are we seeing this player play again? But Bielsa did them too. Tyler Roberts when he rolled up in centre midfield. Rodrigo was the biggest one. Why Rodrigo ever played number 8 for us? I'll never fully understand. But Bielsa saw it and he persisted with it. And I mean.
Yeah, you were banging your head against the wall, weren't you, with him?
It was bizarre. He never played there in his whole career.
No.
But some fans will tell you that he did. He never played there.
No.
So, yeah.
Arthur, we brought striker Perrault. Don't play him there. Do not understand. No, I know, this is it. I mean, the thing is, he's bagged a few goals. And he has some tidy footwork. There were a great bit last night, actually.
Yeah, there were a good bit last night.
And he's good at that. And you can kind of go, okay, I can see him as kind of a pivot in that role, and he's got a bit of vision. He has a nice pass on him, and it kind of seems to kind of work a little bit in some places. But I don't know. Like when you see him chasing down the defenders, it's not 100 miles an hour.
I get from the angle that he wants to arrive late on the edge of the box and he's that kind of striker. But I do see that, but 9 role, not in the 10 role. So then he can also get into the 6-yard box and score them tap-ins that we want him to score. And for me, I don't understand why we don't just... Because Perrault's not really doing that 10 role that we would know from a standard... Why don't we just go 4-4-2? Why don't we just go standard 4-4-2? Because Perrault's never really tracking back anyway, and just allow Rutter to be the link in between, because Rutter loves to come back and start from deep. I don't understand it. I don't understand it overall.
What do you think will happen next after this? Because it feels like there's a bit of a fallout from last night. And what do you expect to happen? Do you think Farke's just going to stick with this, kind of persist with this going forward? Because, I mean, let's be honest, probably most of the games we're going to have enough to win it anyway.
Yeah. I do expect a reaction at the weekend. I do feel a little bit sorry for Town, because I was a little bit nervous going into that game, and I always am, because I don't like it. There's just nothing in it for us really, other than another 3 points. But I do expect that they'll be on the end of a bit of a backlashing now, in that the players will be really peeved with what happened the other day, and they'll want to go out and get 3 points. Whereas I think if we'd have beaten Stoke, I'd have been a little bit more wary of what were coming at the weekend. Complacency can set in, and Derby and all the rest of it. So I do think there'll be a bit of a reaction, and I would imagine that there'll be changes. I'd imagine to see Somerville and James both come back in. I do expect Archie to come out. But whether that's just me thinking that's what should happen, or whether I actually think Daniel Farke will do it or not, is different. And I do expect Kamara to come back in too. I expect to see pretty much the same team as Norwich with Ayling.
back in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Are we this? I mean, this. I've seen a few of these comments flying around. I don't necessarily agree with it or anything. But are we seeing Daniel Farke's limitations and why he's never made it as a top coach in a top league? Didn't do anything in the Bundesliga. Sacked as Norwich manager. Obviously, we know they were underfunded severely, but I think there was a lot of Norwich fans saying, tactical inflexibility again. He was just inflexible then as well. Is this? I mean, look, if we get back to the Premier League, is he good enough to manage us in the Premier League? It's ridiculous to kind of ask it, but we've got to have these thoughts in his head because it could happen.
I think it's fair to ask the question. I don't agree with that kind of thought process because I learn a lot as a fan and about football and managing in general, having Bielsa for the time that we had. And one thing that I really did learn about with Bielsa, is the fact that if you've got an ideology and a philosophy, you have to be unwavering to make sure that people are then committed to it. And the facts are that this style that Farke has created has created 2 record points totals for a championship winning team. So he knows what he's doing. He does know what he's doing. He knows how to win games. Leeds is a bit of a different beast, I'll say that. But I have got no problem with him sticking fast to his policies, beliefs, and whatnot. But that being said, and this is a bit contradictory, comment earlier about so many managers kind of fall on their own sword by being too stubborn. There is an angle to that. And sometimes you can also think that you can almost know too much. Sometimes it doesn't have to be that complicated. Playing an out-and-out number 9 at number 9 should really be pretty simple. But sometimes you can kind of double, triple, bluff yourself into thinking, well, I'm the man, I know what I'm doing. This is a solution to this problem. So I think the answer is somewhere in the middle of it. I'm not at that point where I'm thinking, Daniel Farke's not the man or the rest of it. I still think he had a lot to deal with. I think, if we'd have had this team on the first game of the season, I think we'd probably be 5 or 6 points behind Ipswich instead of 9 plus a game in hand or whatever. I think it'd be a slightly different picture. So I think we just need to deal with that when we get there. But I don't think it's a stupid question to ask.
Yeah. It reminds me that the thing with the Pirro thing is when you're on Football Manager and if you play a player out of position, you get a big red mist.
Orange.
Yeah, it's like I've got a feeling that's what it's like with Pirro at the moment. Honestly, what needs to happen then? It's I mean, I was going to say a big West Yorkshire derby, and I think Huddersfield Town fans and Leeds fans might feel differently about it, might take it serious or not so serious. But it is a big match. Certainly, I think both teams have had terrible midweek results. Huddersfield Town certainly so. It's got to be 3 points for Leeds, hasn't it? It's got to be back on it, and we need to go on another mini run at least now, really.
After we beat Norwich, I said to you on the review that now we need to be expecting 9 points from this week. And the fact that now the maximum we can get is 6 is a bit sickening, really. So yeah, it's an absolute must win. If we have any sort of hopes of the top 2, we cannot be losing games at home to teams that are going to finish 16th and below. It's no disrespect to Town. I feel the same about Stoke because I think Stoke will be in and around it. I think that the relegation pictures this season is pretty bleak. Like, I know Rotherham got a win yesterday, but the bottom 3 are so bad. Like, I think the teams just above that won't have to do very much to stay up. Stoke, Huddersfield, a couple of others that are in and around there. So Plymouth, I think, will probably stay up as well. So yeah, we have to be winning. We have to be winning them games. I am gonna caveat all of this by saying we said a few weeks ago that these games would happen. This is not the finished article for Daniel Farke, for us, for some of the players even. It's going to take time before it looks like the finished product.
Yeah, and I think, obviously we know short-termism in football is rife. Managers don't get very long, but I think the problem Leeds have is, I think some of these players, we have an expiry date on them, like I mentioned earlier. Somerville, Monto, Rutter, are they really going to do another year in the Championship? No. I don't think so.
No,
I think we got to take advantage whilst we've got these players, but, you're looking at the league table and, Middlesbrough are 2 points behind us.
It's wild, isn't it?
Middlesbrough are 2 points behind us. I mean, how on earth has that even happened? I mean, they could go above us at the weekend. Yeah. If results don't go for us, they could go above us. I mean, it's staggering, absolutely staggering.
Yeah. And I mean, we have to kind of believe that we can create that situation too. Because there's nothing stopping us winning 5-6 games in a row other than Leeds United. Yeah, there is nothing stopping. And, there's nothing seeing that situation, Ipswich don't win in 4. You know what I mean? That is the Championship. It does swing very, very quickly. So, I bet Middlesbrough a few weeks ago, if you ask their fans, they wouldn't have said that they'd have ended up 2 points behind us after 13 games or whatever. So you just have to keep on trying to reform it and get it to as close to perfect as possible and hope that you're on the end of one of them runs. I remember the season that Norwich won the league last time under Farker. They won the last 10. Yeah. They won the last 10 games of the season to finish on that points total. So anything can happen yet. There's a long way to go. We're very scarred. We've got a lot of PTSD. We don't think that kind of thing can happen to us. I get it. Been there as well. But I think there's a long way to go, and we just need to write it off again. I think there's some serious things to worry about in it. A bit more so than the Southampton game, where I were a bit more like it were a bit of an off day. There's definitely some more concerning man management things for me. Some of the players that came out and the situation with the penalty. That's what concerns me more than the one-off performance that were a bit meh, but we should have got over the line and got 3 points, regardless.
No, exactly. Nick, thanks for your comment, mate. Agree with Jason. It should have been a 9-point week. 6 point is an absolute minimum now to keep up with the top 2. Yeah, it's interesting with the, because we've said this majority of the season. We swing from one game where praising Farker, his decisions and how he's handled this, how he's handled that. And then the next game, it's like, he did this wrong, he did this wrong, he did this wrong. It's interesting, isn't it, at the moment? And you wonder which way it's going to go.
I made the point in pre-season, and I know Steve got really pissed off with me about it, but it's very, very different managing a club like Huddersfield, and I would class Norwich in that as well. Like, I know Norwich have been a big club, but they've got the fans are a bit passive. They're not. It's not the same. So Daniel Farker would have gone through situations like this at Norwich, and the fans would have just been like, "Oh, okay, on to Saturday." Whereas Leeds fans, it's just fucking like it's all ending, like it's over, like we're never catching top 2, rah, rah, rah. And I get it because I've been there as well. Like I feel it exactly the same. Last night I was absolutely fuming. Whereas I do believe that if Huddersfield were third in the league and they just lost a game like that, even if they had the expectations of promotion, season after coming down, whatever, they would have just been like, on to Saturday. And I think that is probably proving a little bit of a surprise to Farker. Leeds is a different animal when it comes to that kind of pressure and situation, and the players feel that as well.
It's not Norwich, is it now?
It's not Norwich. Just not Norwich. It's not, mate. It's not. And I know Norwich. That makes it sound like I'm saying, oh, look at us big Leeds, but it's not. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. It's part of managing this club.
Yeah, expectations are through the roof, but the potential's through the roof. The potential's huge. He knows if he gets us up, he's got. I mean, God knows how much the 49ers are willing to spend on this, but they're probably going to give it a really good shot when they get to the Premier League, and he wants to be at the helm for that.
I don't think there's any, and I'm going to make a ridiculous kind of analogy to make my point here, but I don't imagine. Remember when Juventus got relegated because of the referee cheating stuff, right?
Yeah.
Their pressure that they'd have gone into every single game would have been intense. It'd have been, they would have just expected to win every game. And imagine if you relegated Manchester United or relegated Chelsea and to the same situation, they would go into every single game with intense expectation that they're going to win. And even though we're not at that level, we still have that expectation on us every single game at this level. We had it in the Premier League. if we're truthful. Like,
Yeah.
fans didn't go into any game thinking, oh, we're just going to lose today. We still had the expectation of 2003 when we were, where we were. So, and that's what they're having to deal with every single week. So, and Farke has to manage that. And that's why Bielsa was so great, because Bielsa was so good at managing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Diggler, when Bamford missed that penalty, Farke looked like his whole life flashed before his eyes. I know.
He only had himself to blame.
Well, yeah. What do you do with Bamford now? I mean, when he comes on, and we've said it before, there was a game, I can't remember who it was against, but we said he made a difference when he came on. He just kind of pinned, it might have been the QPR game, I think.
He made a difference yesterday.
Yeah.
He won the penalty, mate. He made a difference yesterday because he's intelligent. He's quicker than Pirot. He links play quite well, but he's a terrible finisher and he's got no composure and he should be nowhere near penalties. And again, this is why this situation is such bad management, because it's created this massive cloud over it again. Over the last few weeks, Bamford's actually built himself back up. He's actually become useful to the squad. Yeah. He did the same against Norwich.
Yeah.
He came. Bear in mind, he was on that pitch when we turned it around from 2-0 to 3-2. He was on for. Was he on at 2-1? I think he definitely was on for the winner. So that's why I'm so frustrated with the management side of this, because we didn't have to have this cloud over it.
No, it's a great point, because it felt like he was kind of edging his way back in a little bit. Not to start, but to have an impact, because he's not quite as old as Ayling and Cooper. He's 30, he's 30, so there's still time, you would think. And now this, I mean, I've heard some people are saying sell him and get rid, and he can't play for us ever again. But I don't think how.
I think people are. I don't know how to explain this any other way than what I've already said, but Bamford is the man that steps up to take the penalty. Okay, he's the guy that said, I'm going to take responsibility for this team and take it. Is there some ego in it? Yes, of course there is. He's a striker. Should he probably give it up? Yes, he should. But that's not the kind of person that he is. So the management of the team need to take that away from him and not give him that opportunity. Now, if that's been the case, if just say for playing devil's advocate, Bamford wasn't number 2 taker. Somerville, in the changing room beforehand, if Pirot's not on the pitch, Somerville's the number 2 taker, right? Then Bamford should not be in the squad again and he should be gone in January. But that's a difficult decision for the manager to take, that he should take. That's not what's happened. We have a designated penalty taker in Pirot. Pirot wasn't on the pitch, so the players decided it between them. So you cannot blame, for me, really, Bamford missing it, because he's going to say, I'm taking it. Like, he's a number 9. He's the striker. You know what I mean? So, and we know his past record of how he is. So take that away from him, and this problem doesn't exist. I think I've been repeating myself, but it really gets under my skin. Yeah. Because people just want to be like, he's shit, he's crap, he's this, he's that, he's other, because he can't hit the target from there. Sure, get it. But why is he in that position? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I think going forward, when we're playing away from home, certainly I want to see us at it from the first minute now. I want us to be on the front foot. Sometimes it can be difficult, if you pressed a bit. I understand, you can't just be on the front foot automatically, but I want to see that intensity from the off now. There's no excuse for it. I want to see us winning those second balls, being aggressive, getting stuck in, and really looking like we're at it, because these slow starts are killing us, man. These slow starts, I can't watch us. I can't watch these slow starts anymore. I can't do it.
I agree. I do think some of it's instructional, though. I do think it's intentional, some of it.
Yeah, to slow it all down and kind of get, But I think football's different now. I think it's that stuff feels like almost from yesteryear. Get the crowd against it. Teams are going to ignore it. They're just going to come at you. We saw it with Millwall. We saw it with Ipswich. Come on. Learn your lesson now. Learn your lesson. It's not working.
Well, the facts are, right, especially in the first half, you can make up for any at the Championship level, you can make up for any loss in quality through effort and guile and hard work and being on the front foot and pressuring and all the rest of it. And that's what teams are doing. And for the first half, it's putting us in a position where we struggle. So I agree with you, mate. I agree with you completely.
What we're going to do? What we're going to do with this football club, by the way?
Just keep on supporting it, I guess. Like blindly just support it and just hope that it is hard work. Like I was really dejected yesterday, but it's still not the end of the world, is it? Like we're not getting tonked every week like we were in the Premier League. No, but it is frustrating. It is frustrating.
Do you know? I'm just looking at Aston Villa. Like that's who I'm really jealous of at the moment. I'm sick to my stomach with jealousy of Aston Villa because, European run, got one of the best managers in Europe. Everything's on the up. We might even get the Champions League. And I'm thinking we were above them in the league. We finished above them 3 years ago.
It's crazy that they should have come down that year, innit? With the goal line technology goal against Sheffield United. Yeah. They'd have been relegated if that had counted like it should have done. Yeah,
they'll probably win the trophy soon. They'll win it with Emery. They'll probably win. They'll probably win the Europa Conference League. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with you completely. I think we are so similar to Villa. In terms of stature, fan base, size, expectations, everything is so similar to Villa. No reason why we can't have that, but it's just not how football plays out, is it for you? Unfortunately, I mean, Villa were on the absolute ropes of going out of business at one point when they came down to the Championship, and they've rebuilt so quickly. And very, very similar to us. They had Jack Grealish, we had Calvin Phillips. Like we had a couple of diamonds. They had Tammy Abraham, we had Ben White. On loan, a player that really had no right to be in the Championship, but we had them, and they've just managed to build. Well, they got it right, didn't they? The way the decisions that they made, the changes that they made, it weren't working under Gerrard. They got rid of him in the right time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
we bottled it. Yeah, it's frustrating because it's them sliding doors moments. And we said last season when it looked like we were going down, said you don't get out of the Championship easily. We're Leeds. It wasn't going to happen. It was going to be hell. It was going to be hell. I hate this league. I want out. I want back in the Premier League. I make no bones about it. I want back in the Premier League as soon as possible.
The Championship is so much. The Championship is so much stronger than it was last season as well, and we're seeing that by how much Luton and Sheffield United are struggling, particularly, and Burnley. This season, Leicester straight away. I mean, the power that they've got and the players that they kept, and then the recruitment. Yeah, I throw Leeds in that as well, by the way, because I do think that we are one of the stronger teams. Southampton, you look at Ipswich and what they're doing. Sunderland have got another year's worth of experience, and there's some real quality in the league. I never really subscribed to the fact that it was a weak league this year in comparison to last year. I think it's stronger. Look at where Coventry, and I know Coventry lost Gyökeres and Hamer. But look at where they are now. When you know what I mean, like in comparison, they were one goal away really from being in the Premier League, and now look at them. So yeah,
and it was Leeds, Southampton, and Leicester coming down. That's big teams coming down.
Yeah, huge
Mickey Mouse clubs. Do you know?
Well, it's the first time in however many years that none of the promoted sides got relegated. So that shows you how strong the Championship is this season. All three of the teams that are in the Championship this season weren't in it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All three of them. So, yeah.
Says it all. Oh, dear. Well, we go again, as they say, don't we? We go again on Saturday. At least
I hope we win on Saturday, mate. Well, I can't deal with it. I'm not coming on Saturday if it's not. Steve, just no. I can't handle him.
We'll just leave him to it. He can come on.
Yeah, he can come on his own. I can't handle it. Like losing games is bad enough, but when you've got to deal with that fan base, oh god, it makes me so mad.
The bloody Championship. Here we are. Oh my god, losing to Stoke on a wet, windy Wednesday evening. Perfect, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Oh my god. Guys, thank you very much for watching along this evening. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I will be back with our Huddersfield Town correspondent tomorrow.
I can be on tomorrow.
Can you? Oh, perfect.
If you want. Yeah.
Excellent. Jace will be back too. We're going to preview Saturday's game. We're going to get the Huddersfield Town perspective on it as well after what's a bit of a difficult period of for them as well, with Darren Moore in charge losing 4-0 the other night. We will also have instant match reaction to the West Yorkshire derby, maybe. Saturday afternoon as well. So tune in for that one. It's going to be fireworks. Hopefully, it'll be the right result for Leeds, but we'll wait and see.
I can already imagine the numbers and the difference on whether we've won or lost. It'd be record numbers if we lose.
We just retire if we lose it. Honestly, I'll just retire. That's it. I'm done. Honestly, I'm done. I tell you. But yeah, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all your comments as well, guys. If you're watching again later, please throw your comments up as well. What you thought of the result last night and where Leeds are heading at the moment. And if you're listening on Spotify, please do leave us a review and share with your mates as well. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back on tomorrow.
Quick turnaround.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.